Hey guys, Tom with Permaculture Wilmington here. I was putting some compost around my plants. One of my piles is near done, but I'm trying to get another pile going, so I'm just kind of doing this before it's really finished, just to get it out and get it around the plants to protect the soil. But I'm coming to you today because I noticed that my little squash plants here are not doing so well. They were left in the seedling trays a lot longer than they needed to be. And when I planted them, they were all about this color, this kind of yellowish. It's like a chlorosis, like it's missing nitrogen. It's not getting enough nitrogen, but that's actually not the case. In this situation, it's the rain that's causing the interstitial space in the soil to fill up, and the plants themselves are just not getting the vitality they need, and also the soil is too compacted. So what we can do, and I can show you this because this one's coming back, it's a little greener. They were all the same when I put them in the soil a couple days ago, and since I put them in, I've just been aerating it with my garden fork like I showed you in some other videos that I've posted recently. So if you're interested in checking out how to aerate soil properly, just check out the recent videos right before this one on my YouTube channel. But they were all about the same, about like this. These haven't really changed much since I planted them, but this one's gotten a whole lot greener since I put it in the soil, and continuously aerating the soil around it because of all the rain we've gotten the past few days, just to make sure that the soil is not clogging up all the pores and they're not suffocating. So really, I'm just, the whole point in telling you this is that I'm seeing a lot of people with this problem right now, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you how I take care of it. Everybody's got their ways of doing it, but my method does work. So I do get plants to come back. And I was thinking that maybe we could use this as an opportunity for me to show you over the next week or so the differences as I'm doing this, and see if we can bring all of them back, just to see, because these kind of look a little scraggly. They look like they, before I learned how to do this, I would think this is on its way out, but now I know enough about plants to know that it's not bad. It's missing what it needs, and if we provide it with what it needs, then it'll come back for us. There's still plenty of life in it. So but guys, if you want to stay tuned and watch some more videos, some updates after this one, tune in, and we'll see if we can bring these back together. All right. All I'm doing is using a fork, and in this case a pitchfork, just because I don't feel like walking around the other side of the house. And it's really just a matter of sticking it into the soil, and just rocking it a little bit, just to create a little interstitial space in there, just some air pockets. But we don't want to do it too much and pull, because we'll break the roots. So that's really important, not to get real close to the plants. You don't want to be right over them like this. You just want to get a little distance and pop it right in, and then just rock. All right, just rock just a little bit, and then pull it back out. And then we're going to put some compost tea, like where the holes are that I just created down here. I'm going to see, you can kind of see them if you don't disturb it or if it hasn't rained. So if you spray compost tea right after you do this, then you can get the solution that has all the microbes into the holes, so they can get down into the soil that has a lot more moisture, and they can survive a lot better. Just surface drenching without holes in it, without aerating it, doesn't really give your microbes a chance to get deep, and it'll take them a lot longer to penetrate. But if we aerate and we spray compost tea over the top of that, they can get down those holes, because we're creating interstitial space, and they can crawl down. It might take a while, but you know what I mean? Like, we can either squirt it directly in there like an injection unit, and you can actually buy those. But this way, if we're just doing our garden, we don't really need all that fancy equipment, and most of us have a little time. We've got one or two gardens going, not just one. That we're relying on. But if you do have just one, then the trick is just aerating it, making sure that the soil stays oxygenated, and then you just put some compost tea on it to reinforce your microbe population and to get the humic acids that are in compost tea to your plants, because those are direct uptake nutrients. So guys, this is just a little helpful tip for you, and stay tuned, and we'll see if we can bring these plants back together over the next week or so. All right, hope you're having a good day. This is Tom with Permaculture Wilmington. So starting a little bit away from the plant, about 6 inches from the base, maybe more, about 8, and then pushing at an angle. So if I pull this out, you can see that the tines are going at an angle. So I'm going down into the root column, and there is a risk that you could break some of the roots doing this, but there's a lot of roots under a plant usually, and I just planted that recently, so I know there's not a whole lot. So the trick is really to get the soil aerated before you get the plant in, or if the plant had some really thick roots on it that I was worried about, like a larger plant, a more mature plant that would have more roots out here, I would just come away from the plant a little bit. So that's where just understanding root systems of plants can help out while you're doing this, help with your understanding of aeration as well. So that you just push on it and let it go in at an angle, and then come around the plant and just keep doing it in a circle around the plant like this. So if you've already aerated your soil before and you've got good healthy soil, then this should go in real easy. You shouldn't have any problems trying to get this in and out. You know, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it right now. I'm actually doing it one-handed while holding my phone with my other hand, and you know, so it's if this was difficult, I wouldn't be able to do it right now while filming. So it's not very hard, but like when I did the video of the soil that was out next to the sidewalk out there, that was so compacted that I had to jump on a garden fork multiple times for a couple hours to do you know, that whole area. But man, that was some work. But if you've aerated your soil, it really shouldn't be much work. So if you're coming in and just making them stronger, you know, and aerating the soil, then at that point you should have some healthy soil. But yeah, guys, this is something everybody can do. All of us can do. We just need to have an understanding that soil needs to be oxygenated. We got to have air pockets in there, and every time it rains, those oxygen pockets that are in there fill up with water. So, you know, if there's any compaction further down, the water is just going to sit in those spaces longer, and then as it pulls down, the soil's even wetter than it usually is at that point, so it's going to come together and form tighter pockets, and what that means is compaction. That's what compaction is. So we have to go in and we have to aerate soil even after we've planted something sometimes. Just to give you guys a quick idea of a reason for doing this, you know, or understanding how to do this, would definitely be the hurricane situation with all the moisture that we've had. I've seen people's lawns filled with it looks like a swimming pool in their backyard, and that's just, it's nothing but compaction. So you got to get out there and just pop the drain on that. You know, that's just a big bathtub. So all we got to do is poke a hole in it and it'll drain, but we got to get through the compaction layer. So that's the trick. You know, I'm just going to poke a couple in these just while we're doing this, because I'm right here. I know that was some hard soil. This was all grass just last year, guys. This whole area, and I extended my fence and I turned this into just nothing but wood chips covered, and you can see the grass is still kind of coming through. I didn't make it thick enough. I need another load of wood chips, but you know, trying to make the HOA happy. If I popped up another load right now, they would probably send me another letter. But yeah, so look how beautiful everything is, man. This is just, it's gorgeous. All the pollinating beneficial plants that are flowering and bringing in the bugs. And guys, check out the bug video I posted earlier. I got up with some macro lenses and got real close up on bugs, so you can see like some of the leafcutter bees. I didn't even know what leafcutter bee was, to be honest, and then I saw them on the flowers and looked them up so I could put the name in the video for you, and learned what a leafcutter bee is. I mean, guys, like this is something we can all benefit from. We can all increase our knowledge and our understanding and get closer with nature just by sharing things like this with each other. It's wonderful. It makes me feel good, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Alright guys, this is my compost tea bucket, and I've already got a little bit in here. That's why there's some missing. Normally it's full, but I've already put some in. But just to let you know, this is where I put all the stuff that I don't want to get in the sprayer. I use a paint strainer in the top, and then when I want to put something for the sprayer, I'll dip from down here. So I don't get any of the particles in, like the kelp that I put in, or any of the amendments, the compost amendments. There we are, and you can see all the sediment in the bottom. See all the stuff that we don't want to get in the sprayer, like rice particles, and I put grain in there too. There's some ground up oats. I mean, you could put a little wheat. Wheat is a fungal food, so if you wanted to put flour or something that's like micronized. We're going to go out and scoop it onto the squash plants. Alrighty, here we go. Squashing away. Alright guys, so I'm just scooping from the bucket and putting it right on the base of the plant. Just getting it down there. And all those holes that we made around the outside, as that seeps in and leaches down, it's going to get into those holes. And we can even, you know, like if you remember, we put the fork in the ground over here, so we can just put some of that right along those holes, and that will help those microbes get down there. So it doesn't really take a whole lot of microbes. This is a very concentrated solution, and I haven't diluted it at all. So this is straight out of the bucket. Normally I would dilute this, but I want to make sure that these plants are coming back, because I told you guys they were coming. I told you guys I was going to fix it, and that means that I'm going to do the best possible thing I know how to do, because I want to make sure that happens. And the microbes right here, we're not going to dilute them. We could, but there's really no need to. I'm going to cover this up with some of the compost that I was spreading. This stuff, it's almost done, but not quite. It's still got some leaves. I didn't put enough nitrogen in it, basically, is what that was. So there wasn't enough to get it hot enough to really cook in the time frame that I wanted it to. But it's still broken down enough to where it's not heating up anymore. So all the nitrogen is consumed by the carbon at this point that was in the coffee grounds that we included. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and use it. I'm going to cover that up, what we just put in. So the microbes that we just poured at the bottom of the plant, the compost tea is going to get covered up with the rest of the mulch back there, the compost. And then it's going to rain tonight, because we've got a storm coming through right now, so it's supposed to rain one more time. And Port City Job is actually where we get the coffee grounds to make the compost. You know, living in the city, it's hard, especially we haven't been able to develop the closed loop system just yet to where we don't have to bring in things. Hopefully this year was supposed to be that year, and we're definitely getting enough growing now, especially with all the comfrey that's starting to come up. And a lot of the chard, like the perpetual spinach, is a chard, and man, that stuff's coming up. It's getting big, and it puts out a lot of foliage. So yeah, and a lot of clover. You can see like the patches of clover right down there, and I mean there's tons of clover everywhere. We've got so many bees going around. It's so nice to finally see bees. We were worried they wouldn't come this year. We didn't see them until just recently, and then all of a sudden it just started being one bee after the other. Alrighty, so the ones that look the worst, I'm going to put the most on. And you really can't overdo it with compost tea, guys, unless you put things like azomite, which is basically the man-made chemistry. So this is a good example, actually. This plant was almost dead. It had one more leaf left, all right? So this was all that's left. And then, I mean, I thought this was anaerobic and gone. You know, I really did, because, I mean, that leaf looks horrible. But then as I was just kind of putting compost tea around, every time I passed by and I had a compost tea in my bucket, I would put a whole lot around here to just saturate the soil. And then I aerated it as well, which I'm gonna do that right now, one more time, get my pitchfork and do this. But this is a good example of a plant that I really thought was, you know, even after learning all that I have now, I thought it was out, man. I thought it was done. I mean, there was nothing there but a nub. You know, this is the greenest it's been since I put it in. What I did was this is grass underneath here, and I just covered the grass with wood chips. And these are all fresh wood chips. They're not aged. And there's pine mixed in. So, you know, it's mostly pine, but like a very little bit of oak. And there's even a palm tree mixed in. So, you know, when you look at the composition of that, and the fact that it's new, it's not even beginning to decompose like a mulch would be if it was aged in a lot or something, you know, for a landscaping company. But so like this is just horrible, a horrible mulch basically on top of grass that was not healthy and had no organics or anything put on it for 20 years that I've owned the house. So when you look at those numbers and what was under this, like, yeah, and all I did was take this plant that was in a pot and take the pot out. I didn't even dig a hole. I just set it right on top of the grass, all right, in the hole. And then I made a hole in the wood chips. So here, I'll show you. And you can probably tell as I pull this back. But there's worms. I mean, we got some worms in here. Sorry, buddy, I didn't mean to hurt you. But, yeah, I cut him by accident. But yeah, there's the cardboard, and there's mycelium on top. That's what the white is. So that's not paper, that's actually mycelium. Outstanding. I inoculated this area with gourmet choice edible Pathfinder oyster mushrooms, and I was hoping we'd get some mushrooms out of this straw patch here. And there's still mycelium, but I haven't seen anything pop up, unfortunately. But again, all I did was lay straw on top of grass, you know, so I really wasn't expecting too much to happen, but at the same point, like, it's always nice when things work out the way we hope and dream, even though we don't take the precautions to set it up that way. So still some grass coming through. As you can see, there's a couple pieces of grass, even though I've got cardboard, and but this was covered in grass. So the fact that this is the only piece of grass that's coming up out of all that grass that was down here, and I didn't have to do anything, I didn't have to use a tiller, and the point is, guys, like, this is just sitting on top of the soil when I planted it, and it was just in a little seedling cup, in a solo cup. And then I put the wood chips around it, and there is a little cardboard, and I did put a little bit of manure underneath the cardboard, but that's pretty much it, and then covered it back up. So none of this has had time to get down in the soil, is the reason I'm showing you that. Like, it takes a couple months for everything to really break down and start really getting to the point where you're creating a humus layer, and you're actually starting to put nutrition, so that when it rains, the nutrition can go down, and the plant can soak up humic acid, and the microbes can make their exchanges. And it's like there's this process that needs to happen, and it's not just a matter of putting all the things together and then it just happens right away. Like, you have to set the stage, and then you have to wait for, like, all the organisms to come in and to be invited in and to do what they need to do. So, but this is a great example, guys, because this is beautifully green. I'm very happy with how that's working out, and you see the color that it was. And this is also a great example to show you that once a leaf is aged or damaged, there's no getting that back. So, people think that you can, well, it's not really, they just don't know. They don't understand that the leaf itself is not going to regrow. So the only thing you're going to have happen is new growth is going to come up, and this leaf is going to continue to deteriorate, and while it's on the plant, it's even going to take vitality from it. So now that we've got these leaves that are down here, I'm actually going to go ahead and just pull that right off, so that's not pulling vitality away from putting energy into these leaves. So now when it makes cells, when the plant makes cells, it's not going to try to regenerate this, or this isn't going to pull water, and the plant's not going to transpire too much as a result of having a leaf bigger than the root system or the rest of the foliage it can sustain. So anyway, I hope this makes sense, guys, and I'm just going to take some compost and put it around the plants now, just like that. So we'll do a follow-up video here in a couple days, and I'm also going to go along. You see all these little babies on here, these little baby blooms? We need to take all those off, because we need to change the direction that the hormones are going, just like we just did with the leaf on the other plant. So if we take all these little blooms off and make sure we don't snip the top or anything on the main runner that's coming up on the vine, but if you just take the little blooms off and leave the leaves, and then that way the plant is going to try to create more foliage instead of putting its energy into creating blooms. So once you see a bloom, that means that plant is dedicated to the hormones to create those blooms, and it won't put as many hormones or as much energy into creating new foliage. So it's important to do that, or your plant's going to grow slowly. It might still come back, it might still be okay long term, but it's just going to take a lot longer, and this is a way we can speed that up. Alright guys, what I'm doing now is I used a lot of the compost tea to make a compost pile today. The mega pile was a little dry, so as I turned it, I just threw some more inoculant in there on it to get it going good. But what I needed to do was refill my microbes and replenish my microbes, because I used all the way down to about a quarter of the bucket, and then I refilled it with rainwater. So now we need to get our microbes going, and also this has been going for about 2 days, and the microbes only last about 2 days in water when you're growing them. So not so much the mycorrhizal fungi, but the bacteria, like the EM, effective microbes, inoculant that we put in, and the humic acid that we put in. So a lot of those have turned into just basically nutrition at this point. It's just liquid fertilizer, and we need to make sure that the life is going. And I don't have a microscope to double check this. That would be the appropriate thing to do, and how we could guarantee that all the microbes are still there, and that we even need to do this. But since I don't have a microscope yet, I'm just kind of doubling up and making sure, covering my bases, to make sure when I use this I'm getting the most out of it. So I have no idea if there's any humic acid coming out of my worm bin today, but we're going to find out together. So if you guys want to walk out here with me. It's a little dark right now. So all I do is come out under the worm bin, and that's really what I'm showing you, is to show you how easy it is. But yeah, so we've got a bunch of juice. So that's it, guys. That's the good stuff, and that's fresh because I just emptied it yesterday doing the same thing I'm doing right now. So I used about half a bucket yesterday, so you know, I did replenish it though, put just a little bit of EM in there, but I didn't put as much humic acid because there wasn't. Oh look, there's a little baby worm in there. Huh. So okay, now guys, we're going to take this and we're just going to dump it right in our bucket, and that's going to be our humic acid refill. There we go. Right in there, and that's it, guys. It's really that easy. I mean, it's not really so much of a pain in the butt to do. You know, it's more of like we have to use it, and so that's kind of some pressure. Like if you don't use it, you don't get the most out of it. So in that sense, it's kind of motivating, you know, to get you off the couch and from watching TV. At least me, you know, I like my movies. And then when I'm not talking to you guys, now I'm doing more of social networking and teaching people how to grow food than I am watching movies. So, you know, in that sense, I guess that's healthy. So that's that. Hope you're having a good day. This is Tom, Permaculture Wilmington. Live regeneratively and grow abundantly. Have a great day.